the gift that keeps on giving. Obviously, North American Counterstrike drama, right? You'll remember just the other day, it feels like, the assistant coach from EG, or former assistant coach from EG, Evie, put out a really long interview where he talked about all of the problems in Evil Geniuses and how basically all roads lead back to Stewie2k. It was very thorough. We spent some time looking at it on this channel. We sort of read through all of the high points, and I added some editorializing and gave my views about the state of North American Counter-Strike, many of which I'll probably repeat again tonight. But because Stewie2k is on that Sigma streamer grind set, obviously he wanted to respond. But rather than respond through the media, for example, a really good way for him to respond would be, I don't know, reach out to a journalist that who records podcasts and say, hey, listen, I've got some questions that I need to answer publicly. I think if we get together, you'll ask the right ones, but it won't come off as being a one-sided diatribe because you can push back and challenge me on anything I say that doesn't align with reality. And you go, yeah, that's a great idea. Wow, players are really learning how to do the media game now. Isn't that fantastic? But no, instead, particularly because he's on that streamer grind set, he said, I'm not even going to do a tweet longer or a Google Doc manifesto. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a stream, and I'm going to take donations for a mea culpa. So it kicked in. It was last night, wasn't it? I think it was last night. And I lay there with my laptop open, on my face, giving myself a wanker's tan, which I'm very proud of. And I watched it. I watched his whole stream. It was about 49 minutes, some of which was him fiddling around, trying to get his microphone right. And yeah, I gotta say, not impressed. Like, far from. There was this weird, shift where he kept going back and forth from being combative, then apologetic, then combative, then apologetic. And I was thinking, how can I talk about this on a stream? Because I don't really just want to play his stream and sort of then pause it and then do a commentary on it. Unfortunately, Dust2.us, because, this is like a huge story for them. They actually transcribed it. They transcribed the stream and all the major points and even divided it up into, and Stewie addressed this, and Stewie addressed that. So thank you. You've helped me out. But if anyone actually watched the stream, and I know from hovering on the Discord, many of you did. I saw some of you, live replying to it. It was pretty terrible. It didn't really help his cause. And this is just a word of advice for people out there. If you want to make a point in the media, get yourself a journalist to basically give you the platform, but also challenge you on the things that you say. Because also, as well, you could see Stewie was kind of wrestling with himself, wrestling with the tone, wrestling with how he wanted to frame things, contradicted himself on a couple of occasions. And it's like, if a journalist is there to guide you through that process, none of that's going to happen. I've always said to people that I've asked when I've done podcasts or interviews and I've had to ask them difficult questions, I've always said, I'm asking you the difficult questions so you can give the community the answers that you think they need to hear. It's a favor. It's not a gotcha. It's how a journalist can best serve the community and the subject is with that raw honesty to ask the questions everyone's thinking about. I watched it, and man alive, it was a slog. Let's go to the transcript, and then I can read you some of this in my dulcet tones. So you can see here, Stewie2k responds to Evie in impassioned stream, and it did. Like I said, there was some weird bits where I couldn't tell what emotion was kind of overriding him. I couldn't really tell. There were some parts where he was basically I thought tearing up. There were some parts where he seemed very angry. I don't really know what was really going on. But he certainly seemed to be a little bit all over the place. So Evie accused Automatic and Stewie of not listening to Malek and him right from the start, not wanting their input, because they said, we won a major, we know what to do. And obviously, I wasn't there. I wasn't a fly on the wall. But let me tell you, this is certainly the type of thing I have heard from players in the past. There is this idea among a lot of top CS pros that success is sort of some, perpetual motion machine, that once you've got it, you've cracked the code, you'll never need to know anything ever again, you'll never need to improve, you'll never need to change, even in a changing meta, even in a changing landscape, and it will just last forever. And then when it stops, it can't be you, because remember, you cracked the code, you won the big tournaments. It must be your teammates that are falling off, or maybe the organization. Hell, maybe they're not paying you enough. And so I've definitely heard a lot of players down the years. And I just also want to add, before I get into Stewie's reply, can we stop sort of idolizing that collective of American players for winning that major? Yes, I thought the Boston event was incredible. Yes, the miracle in Boston is one of the great storylines. Yes, they were underdogs. They nearly were out of the tournament without winning a game, and they battled back and won the whole thing. It's a fantastic esports story. But here's the reality. They were not so great coming into that major, and once they'd won that major, they weren't so great coming out. They weren't exactly the all-conquering world heroes. In fact, it didn't take long after Skadoodle got his MVP performance that he was fucking benched and flirting in and out of the team because Stewie didn't want to play with him anymore. So you didn't crack the code, my American brothers. You didn't crack the code. You fluked the biggest tournament in the world and then saying holy shit, if we do everything right, we can actually win. You then said, no, we are doing everything right. I'm sure we'll win again. Two very different mindsets. I never really got into the jerk around it because I think winning one major, okay, it's great. It's a fantastic landmark. Talk to me when you've won two. Talk to me when you've got a Grand Slam. I even go so far as to say I might think on some days, I go back and forth on it. Today, as of the time of talking to you, I think the Grand Slam's a better achievement. So anyway, we won the major. We know what to do. First of all, none of our mindsets were ever like that. I never thought that a coach is just a yes man and a hype man and is only there to help us. Whatever Tim's thinking is, I don't know if it evolved, but whatever he says about the coach, I don't think there's anything wrong with this statement. Referring to my vision of a coach as a guy who doesn't decide and assists. Maybe a little bit with who doesn't decide. Valve designed this game to be that way in a sense. You only really have 30 seconds to speak, and you can really only say so much. But I do agree with the part where he assists. I think a coach's job is to come in. For example, if I'm going to come into Liquid as a coach, I'm going to see what Liquid has. I'm going to see from my experience what I can do to help them and help them on. See what they've got, what they're good at, paint the full picture in my head of what they are, who they are, areas that they need to work on and point them and try to help as individuals. Now, that is, again, tonally back and forth because he's saying, I don't think that you should just be a yes man. Then he says, okay, I suppose if you do say that and you do think that that's kind of bad, but this is what I want my coaches to do. I want my coaches to come in and basically say, could you improve this? Could you do that? But, they don't really have much chance to speak, do they, at the tournaments? So Valve obviously agree with me. And it's no, right? All of the coaches, talk to any coach in Counterstrike and they will tell you the work isn't done at the event. The work is done before the event. Being at the event, yeah, you can only talk for 30 seconds. You can only really offer moral support, little adjustments, things like little observations. All of the work is done before that. This is the problem. You, Stewie, never let them do that work. From the first boot camp, day 2 of the first boot camp, you stopped talking to the coach. By the way, he doesn't even deny that part. So how can a coach do their job if their job is to do all of the shit to prep you pre-tournament? Now, this is bollocks. He then goes on to talk more about how he thinks a coach should be. And he goes, hey, Breezy. This is him doing an impersonation of a coach. Hey, Breezy, Your A-site lurk is terrible. I have some suggestions for you. I saw Nico do this. I saw this guy do this. That's how I think a coach should be, and also a person that, as a coach, I feel that you want to be a person that the players want to come to you. They want to go out of their way to come to you for help, and no, you throwing yourself on there all the time, making it known that you're available for help because we know you're available for help, but yeah, anyways, that's what my vision of a coach is. Now, what that tells me, and probably tells you from me having read it, is Stewie doesn't know what a coach is, or what a coach does, or what coaching methods are, what tools a coach would use, because he thinks coaching is a player is doing something wrong, the coach tells that player to do it differently, preferably in the way a better player does it. Now, I'm hoping we can all see the problem there, because Stewie thinks a coach is someone who goes, hey, Breezy, could you be Nico this game? And Breezy goes, oh, yeah, I've never tried being Nico. I'll give it a go, coach. And then Breezy becomes Nico, and they win the game because they've got Nico and not Breezy. In no conceivable way is that what a coach does. In fact, I'll tell you, the bedrock of a good coach in any sport, and I can tell you this as having done a little bit of sports coaching myself. Oh, Richard and his million jobs. Yeah, I've mentioned that one before. I've done sports coaching, sports coaching with women and sports coaching with junior level. One of the bedrocks of coaching is theory. You give somebody the sound theory, the sound game theory, which that if they apply it, 9 times out of 10, it'll be the right thing to do. But what makes a truly great player, right, is them being able to contextually understand the very obscure 10th time it doesn't apply. And if you're a really good coach, that's when you can start helping them with it. But what you always give them is, this is the baseline, this is what you do, this is the objectively correct thing to be doing in most situations, and this is why. And you explain it to people. So, for example, you wouldn't say your A-site lurk is terrible, could you do it more like Nico? You would say your A-site lurk is terrible because when you lurk on a site, you need to do it like this. And this is why it works. Could you please try doing it that way? And then I'll give you some feedback on whether I've seen an appreciable improvement or not. And the player goes, yes, you're the coach and you're only here to help me, so I will listen to you and do what you say. And if it works, brilliant. If it doesn't, we'll have a discussion. Also locked up in all of that, by the way, is learning styles. People have different learning styles. Loads of people absorb information in different ways. Some people need to see it. Some people can hear it. Some people need to read it. Some people need you like helicopter parent them essentially and do it for them a few times and really walk them through it step by step so they can piece it together in their head. And these are just the broad strokes. There's obviously loads of little nuance to learning styles and everything else. So, the idea that it's as simple as just play like Nico, no, ridiculous. And I'll add this idea as well. I feel like a coach has to be the person players want to come to. Now, it's fantastic, by the way, if you have a positive relationship with your coach to the degree that players want to come to you all of the time and say, listen, man, I was working on this and it didn't quite feel right and it didn't click. Could you help me? Or, I'm having a crisis of confidence. I'm getting a bit nervous in the big games. Can you help me? Or I'm having some problems in my personal life and it's making me distracted right now. Can you help me? Right? It's fantastic. But I'll add, outside of a coach that coming in and telling you do this and you doing it and then you having a debrief about whether or not it worked and in which areas we can improve, they're a coach. They're not a fucking agony aunt. If you want to ask profound questions, dear fucking diary it. You are not guaranteed to have that kind of relationship with a coach in your life. In fact, all of the jocks in the chat will tell you this. You get widely different coaches. Yeah, sometimes you get the coach who's like a surrogate father and you just want to fucking please them and do everything for them. And other times, you get the coach who's just such a cunt, you just want to prove him wrong. You're never calling that guy up saying, oh, I'm thinking about asking her to the prom. What would you do, coach? You're not doing that. You hate this cunt on some level. But that guy is also giving you the tools to succeed and giving you the motivation. It's real crazy because I'd assumed Stewie had done some sorts of sports in his life. Always assumed he must have done some sports of some sort. And so it's really weird that it doesn't seem to have ever had an effective coach in his life or understand the coach-player dynamic on any level. It just seems really strange to me, but maybe that's an assumption on my part. Maybe he never has had that. I'll tell you, all of the fucking players, by the way, that have had some sort of sporting background, you'll never hear them complaining about coaches. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. The ones in Counterstrike have, and in esports in general, have almost no autonomy. They don't even get to pick the team. They have no disciplinary authority. They're completely toothless. So what do they really do? They give you a bunch of protocols and say, if you implement these, we'll have an increased chance of winning. And you, a fucking player on a salary that eclipses them, by some fucking distance, you turn around and go, no, stick it up your ass. I've won a major. Yeah, it's not a great look, is it? Not a great look. It's almost as if this isn't a real sport in any way, shape, or form, and it is just a bunch of kids playing video games. He then goes on to address this part where Evie talks about Stewie's attitude as being a massive red flag because, he had a pretty poor response very early on into the boot camp process. You can see he says, I'll address it now, and I'll address it at the end. I know my attitude is not the best. I am a guy who does not like to lose. I will win in any other condition. I will do anything to win. Now, here's one thing you won't do to win. Shut the fuck up and listen to your coach. You won't do that. So don't tell me you'll do anything to win. Because the easiest fucking thing to do is shut the fuck up and let someone else tell you what to do. That's like turn up and just not say anything. That's all you have to do. Ears open, mouth fucking closed. Like the military. It's very simple. But you're not willing to do that to have an increased chance of winning. You, in fact, actually don't want to win. Here's what you want. You want to win on your terms. These are not the same. I have talked about this psychology in competition for years. And basically, it boils down to this. People don't want to win. They want to be the reason they win in team sports. They want to score all the goals, so they shoot more. They want to get all the baskets, so they shoot more. They want to score all the tries, so they run more. In CS, they want to get the frags, so they push more. People want to be the fucking star. They think by being the star, that's how you become the reason you win. You want to know how you win in a team sport? You identify the weaknesses of your teammates and colleagues, and you sacrifice. You do the shit. If you're not super talented, that is. If you're super talented, just shut the fuck up and go and carry the game. But if you're not, if you're a normal sports person, right, normal esports player, you look at where the gaps are in your overall team strength and you fill them. That means in a fucking pub game, you walk around, you throw the flashes, you throw the smokes, you peek first. Your score will be shit. You will not be having a good time. It will not be fun, but you will have an increased chance of winning. If you ever want to see a game that will teach you this lesson more brutally than any other, play Dota. It's not as true now, But anyone if you're the dickhead who goes, you're the support, you're meant to ward, and the support goes, lol, I'm jungling, I'm getting a hand of Midas, suck my balls, right? And if you go, I can't believe a support has told me, a mid, to suck their balls, well, this is an outrage. I'm going to sit here and farm and then passively, aggressively whine about there being no vision on the map. Just buy the wards, dickhead. Just, if you know they're not going to do it, you do it. You do it. And then you have the advantage, see? Yes, you've got a troll. Oh, you've got a griefer. Right? You'll have vision, though, won't you? You've just took something out of the fucking L column. But no, ego, pride. The people who are willing to do anything to win are the people that do all the water carrying, all the dog shit. They're the real winners. They're the people that will put themselves last and the team first. It's why we have the saying, there's no I in team, which, of course, is bullshit because star players very often can carry teams. But you always need someone who's willing to just fill in the gaps. Stewie makes it sound like he is one of these guys. He is not one of these guys. Stewie, in fact, is far from it. Stewie believes, we know this from his actions, we know this from his behaviour, Stewie believes he understands the game on such an incredible theoretical level that anybody that cannot follow it to the same level and do the same things he would do in every situation is a bad player and is letting the team down. He believes his vision as an IGL is the only way to play. So what you mean is you will do anything to win provided it conforms to your template of success. Well, let me tell you, for someone who likes to win and will do anything to win, you've done a whole fucking lot of losing, homie. It must be driving you mad. Are you going to change anything up? No, you're going to grind Valorant. Good job. Oh, and we'll get to that. We'll get to the Valorant numbers. Put it this way. If somebody showed me this and it was one of my players on salary, not even just a salary, if you saw his Valorant numbers, which you will, I'll show them to you, you're getting benched immediately and I'm looking to sell you the next day. I'm on the phone. I'll do anything to win, but I won't stop grinding 16 games of Valorant a day, and I won't listen to my coach. We're really getting thin on options of things to try here, Stewie, because your method you've tried it, and it has failed over and over and over and over again. And now you're at the stage where you're too afraid to even go to tournaments. They should have been at that Pinnacle one. They didn't go. They sent the party astronauts instead. They sent the B team. I like winning so much, I'm going to dodge tournaments. Said no real competitor ever. Like Audley Harrison dodging a big fight so he can knock out another doorman. Fuck you, you ain't real. Anyway, he goes on to self-aggrandize for a while. Anyone who has been watching me, anyone who has played on my team knows that. They know that winning is everything to me. I understand my attitude gets in the way at times when it is brought up. I notice it and I know I have to work on it. Even though it has been with me throughout my entire career from the very beginning when I joined Cloud9. There are moments of good and bad. I think that comes with a lot of players. Simple. Nico is like that. You can't make that comparison anymore, by the way, mate. But we are different in our own ways. But on this specific day, day 2, we both lost our shit that day. For a guy who knows attitude can get in the way, I'm aware of my being in tilt, and I'm aware of the effect it can have on my teammates. But after the second day, Malik brought it up to me. He said, hey, it's not okay you acted like this or said this. I kid you not. As a person who knows I tilt, it's my first day there, and I'm happy to be there, and I'm happy to play with the guys. I kid you not. I did not know one thing I did wrong in terms of attitude, and I wanted to start fresh with everything that happened the year before. We went on a 45-minute argument that went nowhere, and it didn't come to any understanding. Malik insisted on showing me the review to see that it was wrong. It was really bad. It got to the point where I couldn't see it, and I had to ask my teammates. So the second day of your working relationship with this coach, and they're telling you there's a problem with your attitude, which you claim to know there's a problem with your attitude, but you also say you're aware of it, and then when someone tells you that's just met you, oh, this attitude sucks, you go, no, listen, I'm aware of when I have an attitude problem. Which, by the way, can't be true, because if you were aware it was going to happen, you would catch yourself before you did it. Because remember, you're the guy who'll do anything to win, right, homie? You're the guy who'll do anything to win. So certainly quelling that attitude and suppressing it when you feel the demon raging up inside, that would be helpful. That'd be a start. Oh, you got no self-control either. All right then. Well, we're really ticking all of the boxes for success here. Malek has coached some of the biggest names in Counter-Strike. I talked to Malek. I really like Malek. I think he's an underrated coach. I think his problem, though, is he will walk away. When these fights erupt, he'll just fuck off. He'll just say, I'm not doing it, whatever. And as a result, it looks like he's, giving up or whatever. But I think he just understands if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. But he's coached some of the biggest names in World Counter-Strike. And this is the first time I've ever heard about him having a real major flare-up with a player, and it's the first time I've ever heard a player speak ill of Malek. And if I'm wrong, you can correct me, but I don't think I am. Next up, on the second day of the boot camp, he talks about something called the Starbucks incident. The Starbucks incident, right? I don't think people realize how fucking immature esports teams are. I really don't. I've seen so much shit in fucking team houses and heard so many stories. I've heard teams split up because someone won't do the dishes or flush the fucking toilet after they've had a shit. I've heard players not want to play with other players because, they don't think they fucking shower enough. I've heard all sorts of fucking nonsense down the years. It's absolutely pathetic. And remember, these are your athletes. These are your stars. These are your heroes. All being paid, 20 grand a fucking month. Way more in some cases. And this is how they behave. But anyway, here's the Starbucks incident. After the argument, Malek said he wanted to go to Starbucks and said, I don't want to talk about CS. I want to talk about life. I want to talk about you. So in other words, what Malek has done here, and you will have to do this sometimes as a coach. Shit, you'll have to do this sometimes as an employee, a boss. Sometimes in a fucking relationship. You offer the olive branch. You're right, but you have to offer the olive branch because the other person won't calm down and meet you halfway. Stop me if you've heard this one before, if you've ever been in a fucking argumentative relationship, right? You have to offer the olive branch because you're the one that's still in control. You're the one whose emotions are still level. So what you do, and also in this relationship, you're also the adult, There's this behavioral model. It's very basic, but it's one of the ways it's something you use in conflict resolution. It's called parent, adult, child, right? And what happens is, if someone is acting like a child, it's very easy to go into acting like the parent. And what does that mean? Well, a child says, I don't want to. And a parent goes, but you will, but you must. I'm in charge. I'm the parent. An adult doesn't behave that way. An adult says, well, I understand you don't want to do it. Is there a way I could persuade you to do it? Why is it you have these feelings? An adult has an adult conversation about it. And the thought process is, as long as you maintain your composure and behave like an adult, eventually the child will stop being the child and the child will come up to the adult level, right? Same goes, it's very easy when someone's acting like a parent to you and being controlling and domineering that you want to have a tantrum and act like a child. No, I don't have to do what you tell me. Fuck you. I'm rebelling. And, you don't. You have to act like an adult and say, listen, I am an adult and I am going to make my own decisions. So you'll see a lot of fucking people fall into this trap. And so what Malek has done there is textbook, behave like an adult. Hey, I know we've had an argument about the game. Let's change the topic. Let's go to Starbucks, grab a coffee, unwind, and let's shoot the shit. What a great guy. What a great coach. He's been undermined on the second day in the job by the captain he knows he's got to have a relationship with. It's his team, they're his players, and so he extends the olive branch. And what does Stewie do with that olive branch? Slaps it away and says, stick it up your ass. And then says, he's a total stranger to me, and I'm not on his wavelength of doing that. I understand his intentions of having a healthy relationship and Malik being in a coaching role, but I'm not ready to move at that speed. I don't know Cirque, I don't know Breezy, it's my first time meeting them, and I believe that relationships need to be built organically. You know, by socializing, especially with no history between anybody, it needs to happen naturally and build over time. You see what I'm talking about? Parent, child, adult, you know what I mean? That is pathetic, and that is a pathetic excuse. You are meant to be having a working relationship with this guy, ostensibly for many years. Your coach has invited you out to get a coffee with him. It's not fucking speed dating, is it? It's not a marriage proposal. It's a coffee and a conversation. And look, let's find some common ground by talking about ourselves. Because a good coach, you see, is always trying to pick up on cues and things. And, oh, so, okay, he had that experience. That's why he's averse to when I say this. Or, oh, I didn't know he believed that. Or I didn't know that happened. I didn't know he had this negative experience with this player. Right, okay, things are starting to make sense. You're always trying to pick up on shit that you can use because you just want to reach these kids. You just want to reach them and fucking teach them. This cunt wouldn't even come out for a coffee with his coach. Keep in mind, by the way, you're in your fucking mid-20s, Stu. What do you mean? Like, no, I don't want a coffee. So he addressed the Starbucks incident and said, I'm not blaming Malik for that situation. I'm just talking about what happened in the beginning, the argument that led onto it, the wrong foot. It shouldn't have been an argument or a problem. The key thing is Malik didn't feel involved, but I didn't feel that was the case. We just couldn't move on from what happened that day. Yeah, you made that a reality. You know, what better way to move on than say, let's have a drink. So forget about it. You know, I might be a dinosaur, some fucking boomer dinosaur, but I've literally had fist fights with people and then gone, fucking hell, that was a bit stupid, mate. Why are we knocking lumps out of each other for? That got a bit. Holy shit, that fucking ran away from us. Let's get a fucking beer, eh? Fuck me. What a pair of prats. And we've laughed about it, and we've laughed like fucking drains. So, if I can get a beer with someone that was punching me in the fucking face, surely a guy that's just saying, your attitude kind of stinks a little bit, but we're going to have to work together. Let's get a coffee. You know, like, doesn't really seem that bad. You know, that's the running joke, isn't it? Lads, we've all had a drink. You know, fuck me. Then he said Malik's definitely in the wrong. Malik wanted to adopt the G2 system into Evil Geniuses. Probably not a bad idea, considering they're better than you. And I wanted to bring pieces of Liquid. I'm sure they're both good. I'm sure we can put both pieces together. But at the same time, this isn't G2, nor is it Liquid. We never shut down anything Malik said. Except that. Then he talks again about philosophical differences, which I just find so weird because your viewpoint of what you should be doing in the team is irrelevant because that's the coach's job. I don't care about your philosophy. I might pretend to care, but ultimately we're doing it my way. I'm just going to Jedi mind trick you into thinking you had some input. You know, I'm the coach. Am I the coach or am I not? So after our first match, I pulled up the VOD watching the game. It was not planned. Nothing was organised. Anyone was welcome to join. Afterwards, I hear that Malik felt he was left out and wasn't involved. But I never intentionally excluded him. He was welcome to come and interject and say his 2 cents. I did not go out of my way to exclude him or do anything malicious. Me having to worry about this is kind of tough. I want to be focused on the game and solely on the game. And this is related to Malik and Stewie and VOD review. And Stewie basically started watching VODs with the players and deliberately... And listen, I don't give a fuck how you're framing it there, brother. I'll tell you what you did. You didn't like your coach. You didn't want to work with him. You made that abundantly clear. You wouldn't even get coffee with him. So you decided to undermine him by you doing the VOD reviews when he wasn't around. And at no point did you even think, yeah, the coach should probably be here, you know, for the fucking tactics I'm telling my team to implement. So again, you're doing a coach's job. Then, this level of pettiness. If you thought the coffee incident was pathetic, one day Malik sent me a friend request on Steam and I didn't accept or decline it. The manager, Matt, told me he might have felt a type of way about it because I did not accept his friend request, but it wasn't even brought to my attention. Like, guys, is this fucking high school? By the way, these are Stewie's words. This guy is so oblivious because he's been doing this for so long, and evil geniuses have enabled it, and Liquid before them enabled it, because Stewie2k has this talismanic reputation, which, spoiler, it ain't been true for years, by the way. He should be treated like he's washed up. He shouldn't be treated like he's on a fucking NAF level or a Twists level. He ain't. But your coach adds you on Steam for the purposes of ease of communication, and you refuse to do it because you had a little boo-hoo argument on day 2, and then you say, wasn't even brought to my attention. It was brought to your attention when he fucking added you, you silly cunt. That was when it was brought to your attention, and you saw it, and you went, I'm not accepting that, don't like him. Relationships have to grow organically. Now watch as I don't interact with this person ever. What are you talking about? Again, by the way, a manager went to him and said, oh, yeah, Malik said you didn't accept him on Steam, friends. And Stewie's gone. That manager should be whipping that fucking jersey off him like it's an Incredible Hulk transformation scene and say, do you want to play for this org? If you do, you accept the fucking coach's request and you do what the coach says. Otherwise, fuck you, go to Benchville. There's only 2 orgs in North America anyway that can afford you. You know, like, it's a fucking joke. What is this shit? Like, I feel like I'm fucking mad. Like, you know, I know these players have to be mollycoddled. A lot of them are really under-socialised. But that's outrageous. And the fact that a manager has told you about it and then not took any disciplinary action, that's fucking mental. Anyway, then he denies that there were 2 separate camps, after having just told the story about how he was doing the coach's job of VOD review deliberately while the coach wasn't there. He then says everything Evie said in his interview was over-exaggerated, despite the fact that Stewie, in his own words, has told worse stories than Evie told in his interview. He also said about Stewie2k denying tactical breaks during matches, so obviously this is when people call for a tactical timeout. And he said, I had to message Malik to see if this was true. He said that it did happen in the first game. It was literally our official debut. I didn't do it out of malice. I just hit a wall. Again, I don't care why you didn't listen to the coach and refuse to take the tactical timeouts I was telling you to call. I don't care if you've hit a wall. If you've hit a wall and you will not do the bare minimum, stop playing. No one is forcing you to take that exorbitant paycheck, motherfucker. Somebody else in North America would kill for that, would kill for a fraction of that, would kill to have your spot. Right? No one is forcing you to be there. It's clear where your heart lies. Go follow it. Stop with the sunken cost fallacy. Then there was the bit where Evie talked about, I had to clench my fist. And he said, I've never had an unfriendly interaction with Evie. I don't remember a time I disrespected Evie. I had to go back and ask Malik. He said, yeah, there was a time he just took it and was even walking up to your PC. I wasn't aware of that, so I asked him what I said. Malik informed him the cause of the incident was after Evie forgot to start the demo recorder, and Stewie2k said you had one job that Evie did not take well. I mean, you know, put it this way. Yeah, in a functional team, that would be funny. But in a team where, Stewie, you have one job to listen to the coach and you refuse to do it, maybe you don't get to say these things, brother. Maybe you need to do less of the gum flapping. The other scandalous accusation was that Stewie2k stopped calling in the middle of the ESL Pro League Season 15, right in front of the organisation's CEO. And Stewie said he absolutely had to respond to this allegation. And so here's what he says. Now remember, the allegation was that at the event that Malik wasn't there because Malik had health problems, and so Evie was the coach, essentially. The CEO, Nicole, came and in the middle of a game where Stewie was having a little fucking tantrum, as he seems increasingly prone to do these days. He never used to be like this, by the way, this kid. I don't know what the fuck's got into him. Ego, money, all the usual probably. Even in front of the CEO, he continued to have that tantrum and not call. That's the allegation. He says, the first month of boot camp is the longest practice we ever had as a brand new 5. No core, system, foundation, culture or nothing. Then we had come back to America and complete our scrim obligations. We all know the state of NA and how beneficial it can be. For us, it hurts us because we are a brand new team. We have a lot to work on. This was our very first LAN. We go 1 week before EPL, which is nothing. We can only prepare so much. I was literally in the room. They can't deny it. 10 to 12 hours a day trying to build something. We got destroyed by every team in the beginning, and it was tough the first few games. Once we realised we couldn't make it out of groups, that's where, for me, tournament life is done. Now, I'm in reflection mode, thinking about everything that I've done, everything that went wrong, how I have led a team to not even being able to win a map, how everything feels like shit, and I even get to a point in the match where I run into a brick wall. I don't know what to call. Anyone can call. Anyone can suggest anything. Nothing that I am saying is working. It's such a new team that if I call something complicated, there is more room for error. There is just so much running through my head, and I'm taking it all on me. Right. Let's start with the first bit. As soon as I realised we couldn't get out the groups, that is the end of tournament life for me. Well, congratulations on disrespecting every other professional player in that tournament. That is outrageous because the games that you are playing will still have an impact on other people's potential tournament life. Whenever a player says this, well, we can't qualify, so we're not trying, it is so borderline close to throwing games, it makes me fucking sick to my fucking stomach because you disrespect your entire profession. Not to mention sponsor obligations, not to mention fan obligations, not to mention obligations to your employer, to at least fucking try, Mr. I hate losing. Mr. I hate losing. He can't even see the inherent contradiction. I hate losing so much that even when presented with an opportunity to win a game and restore some pride, I chose not to do it. I chose not to try. I'll tell you this. If I'm, not that it matters now because ESL are just pure evil, but if I'm someone at ESL and I see a player publicly saying, I didn't try in 2 games, I gave up and phoned it in because I just wanted the tournament to end, I would seriously be talking to that organisation about, like, maybe we kick you out, maybe you don't come back next season. Especially if, remember, this was an org, by the way, that they finished bottom of the group fucking 3 times out of the last 4 seasons, which was grounds for removal. So let's just shelve that and how pathetic that is and how disrespectful that is and how unacceptable that is. Let's instead talk about this other bit. And all I can think about is how I've led a team to not being able to win a map. How everything feels like shit. I don't know what to call. Anyone can call. If I call something complicated, it doesn't work. There's so much running through my head, I can't concentrate. You're not an IGL. End of discussion. Anyone who unironically says that is not an IGL. You're not a leader. You're not a leader of men. You're not a tactician. You're nothing. You haven't got the stones for it. That's fine. Not a lot of people do. That tells me when the going gets tough, you let it fucking get to you psychologically and you break. That is the last thing you can do as a leader. That's the last thing you can do as a leader in anything. Is let it get on top of you like that. You gotta tell those other 4 fucking players with you that yes, it's bad, but we can still fucking do this. Don't worry, I've got a trick up my sleeve. You have got to sell them the fucking lie at the very least. That's bare minimum. That's bare minimum leadership. Getting people on board. Instead, All you're thinking about is, well, I'm a failure. That's what people will say. Why won't anything work? It's your job to make it work. Maybe, by the way, if you hadn't fucked off a world-class coach and actually dialed in and listened, you wouldn't have been sat in that chair looking like a fucking moron, looking like a loser, looking like a shadow of yourself, humiliating yourself as an in-game leader, pretending you can do it like a child, putting on their parents' clothes. No, homie. This is a disgrace. This is an embarrassment. How can you say these words on a string and then feel like, oh yeah, I've still fucking got this? You need a come to fucking Jesus moment, my friend. And Stewie, I know your brother and I care about you. I hope somebody clips you this. I hope somebody sends it to you. I'd give you this exact same fucking talk in person. And we've had enough talks in person, so you know I would. Somebody should have fucking shook you by the lapels long before you got to this stage, because it's fucking sad to read Stewie2k saying shit like that. And as I told you all the time, do not be a leader. It's not you. It isn't you. He then goes on to reiterate, he doesn't play for the paycheck. The paycheck just happens to be there and happens to be massive. He says no one should generalize American pros because we aren't liquid and we aren't complexity. Everyone is different. Well, yeah, complexity have an excuse. They're very different. Yes, they're young junior players learning their craft, having been, I don't know, gatekept and fucked out of other teams, some of which you were on. So yeah, nobody's bad-mouthing complexity, except maybe Junior for being bad, but everyone's forgiving them. Liquid and EG are the last men standing in NA, and you both massively underperform. And you not only do you massively underperform, you're a team of cronies. You're a team of cronies. You bring your homies back from Valorant when it suits you. You all want to be the IGL. You all want to be in charge. You all want yes men for fucking coaches. And when adults come in and say this isn't going to work, you have tantrums and you backstab and kick them out like you all did with fucking Moses. When Fallen came into your team and tried to be the IGL and tried to get you up to fucking, to do things his way, you didn't believe in it. And you turned around and you said, yeah, I think Fallen's a little bit out of date, actually. Fallen's a little bit washed up. How ironic. The bottom line is, there is something fucked with your mentality. And, spoiler, in the back of your mind, you're still so fucking delusional, you think you're going to get onto a top Valorant team for big money. Which you might, but trust me, it won't last. Them 16-year-old Zoomers, their jet is way better than yours. They're fucking zipping around. You can't keep up with these kids these days that they got over there in Valorant. It's a pipe dream. It might have been true 2 years ago. Ask Hiko how it's all working out. And by the way, as we'll get to, Stewie plays Jet. He thinks he's going to be that guy. Not that guy. You're not that guy. You haven't been that guy for years. Then, obviously remember, it was a terrible week for Stewie because Apex had done an interview, hadn't he? And he'd said, I don't think Stewie's an IGL, like the rest of the fucking world. And he said, one thing I learned from all this is I'm not cut out to be a captain. Those things that Apex said, for example, I've seen it. There's a reason why I'm not talking about it. I know, it's the truth, and I'm facing the truth. That's how it is. I know I shouldn't be IGLing, and I know I shouldn't be captain. Even after we failed at the RMR, I told the guys you should look into finding an IGL that can actually lead you, whether it's me in my natural role or me sidelined. I understand I might not have approached things the best way, and that I could have done things better, but the way things are being said devalues the time. I guess devalues the team is what that's meant to say. Evie also pointed out Stewie has a 0.55 rating versus top 5 teams. I didn't realise it was that bad. I really didn't realise it was that bad. It still feels like it can't be that bad. I'm double checking this. I mean, it's not that now, but maybe. Back then. Then he goes, and this is when he was getting emotional in the clips. Because again, the thing that he's most upset about is his reputation being impugned. He said, the fact you even brought up my rating, don't you think I'm aware I suck? That I'm putting the team in front of me, worried about the other side of the map? The fact that we aren't ready and I'm trying to focus on everything else but my game. I'm not blaming anyone for that. I took accountability for that after EPL. This doesn't define what happened to me. Then he said he didn't know anything about Malik and Evie getting removed. I'll tell you this. The bottom line is, mate, if you refuse to work with your coach and you're the star player at the organisation, that if for some reason, inexplicably, they're going to stick with you, well, that means the coach has to go. So don't give me that shit. You know exactly what you were doing from the second day when you refused to work with Malik. You knew he was on a road to getting fired. You got that man fired. You got 2 men fired for your ego and your hubris. And you better own up to that. Because in getting them fired, you were tacitly saying they were the problem. I think we can now see it wasn't them. So you got 2 men fired for nothing. That's on you. That's on your soul. 2 men. One, by the way, was going through lots of medical health problems and everything to the point you got them fired. You got Malik fired when he was at his lowest ebb and really going through some shit. You did that for your ego. Not cool, is it? But you've got plausible deniability, bro. You weren't in the email chain, right? Nicole didn't come to you and say, we're thinking about firing Malik, but just before we do. No, they knew. By the way, if you'd been asked, you would have said yeah. Own it, you fucking coward. After reading all of the interview, when the relationship between me and Evie was never even like this, it shows he really came out of his way to say, it's all me. All of it is on me. And it's like, you don't think I know that? You don't think I know I failed the project? You think I don't know I failed being a captain? You think I don't know that? I'm sorry to all the fans that had to watch our results this year. We couldn't win a map. In the end, I know I fucked up on my attitude and everything I'm aware of. I wish I could have done better, everything. As Stewie said, the team is still on a break with their next potential tournament, for now, being the Blast Premier Fall Groups in mid-August. If the organisation opts to send another roster, then the following event is ESL Pro League Season 16, running from the end of August to the start of October. What a nice, convenient summer holiday you've manufactured for yourself. I'm sure Stewie2k, who will do anything to win, and definitely isn't checked out, and definitely is having a self-reflective moment, and definitely wants to get better, and definitely wants to do right by the EG fans. I'm sure he is using this time to build himself up, practice his game, practice his skills. Let's see how he's actually using his time. Stewie2k, Valorant account. Let's have a look at the games he's played today. That does say 18, doesn't it? Yeah. It's all like this. These are how many games of Valorant he's playing a day. There ain't time to do anything else. This is the little heat chart they do. Look at June, right? The dark reds are just 4 games. The second brightest is 12 games. And the brightest is 17 games or more in a day. Just fucking stop. Just stop. Who are you kidding with this shit? Like, I have never, ever, ever called out a player for playing other games in their downtime. I knew all the French boys when they were fucking grinding the latest World of Warcraft expansion and they take a break. I remember every summer the Swedish teams would fucking break out because it was like, oh, shit, we got like 3 months of sunshine. Like, let's go enjoy it. You know, never said anything about it. You got to live life. You got to have some balance to it. When Bialy was getting chewed up for having more PUBG hours than CS hours, I said, at the end of the day, it's bogus and bullshit, and all pro players should deactivate you being able to see that on Steam. Not long after that drama, I believe there was an update that made it off by default. Now you have to opt in. And not all players, by the way, are good in the sense, like, they grind more and they get better. It doesn't always work like that for people. You know, like Shocks, Shocks is bad now. Shocks was terrible in Team Liquid and is 100% out. And by the way, spoiler, I think people are now strongly intimating that Team Liquid behind the scenes. So, you know, this big Yakindar bidding war, right? That's been going on. Na'Vi were interested and then couldn't do it because of the Virtus Pro contracts. Then G2 did have a think, but yeah, we're going to stick. And now Liquid are swooping in, apparently, to get their man as a replacement for Shock. So make it up what you will. It's all fluid. It's all happening. People still tell me stuff. I hope he doesn't. So anyway, point I'm making about Shocks is not all fucking players need to grind 500 hours like to be good. Shocks is best. Used to have few hours played. He would just practice that when he needed to and then not do anything else the rest of the time. Wouldn't even play other games a lot of the time. Would just be out there living his life. He was a phenom like that, right? But when you are on a top team that's just kicked its coach, because your team has failed. Your team hasn't won anything. Your team is ranked 7th in NA according to like the Dust2.US fucking rankings. Your team is like outside of the top 50 and you're all being paid huge amounts of money and you're the leader and you've just had all this big blow up about how you're not trying and you're not working hard enough and you won't work with coaches and you've got a bad attitude. To be doing this at this time is absolutely mental. It's mental. It's so optically, like, you've got to play on a burner account that no one knows it's yours. This is mental. This is mental to be doing this, to be grinding 18 fucking games of Valorant a day, saying things on stream like, oh, it's inevitable I'll go to Valorant. By the way, spoiler, not with these stats, bro. Are you fucking mad? Are you dizzy, blood? As I said, like, look at your shit. You're rocking a 0.9 KD most games. You have, I mean, you're immortal. You're not radiant. And by the way, so this only goes back to May, and look at the number of games. And not even a 50% win rate. But you're not getting in a fucking top team. Have you seen what a good Valorant player looks like in pubs? This is a fucking joke. This is a sick joke, Stu. Bro. I wish it was fucking Boston again. I wish we were in that fucking hotel. I wish I could fucking sit you down and tell you 4 years from now, you're going to fuck everything up for yourself. You're going to fuck up your legacy, fuck up your reputation. It's fucking sad. It's fucking sad. And just to put it in the video, like, never forget this.
Now it's going to fall onto the long players. Naf gets caught on the catwalk. And again, Navi have bailed themselves out of rocky waters. A 6-5 lead. But holy hell, these Deeg shots.
This is disgusting, man. Right on the boost. you need to zoom. You got to have 20/20 vision or a zoom. That's nuts. That's some beautiful stuff, man. All these shots are crazy. 3 for 3. But Electronic is having an equivalently insane game. Like, Boomich looks like Electronic.
Die for me, dude. In many ways, he did, Stu. In many ways, he did. You just don't fucking know it yet. What an absolute fucking joke. And, you know, listen. It's, like I say, it's just sad. This is a guy that was in contention to be considered one of the best of all time in NA, and he's pissed that legacy away and continues to do so. But his response was absolutely delusional.